So if you are stuck and having a hard time coming up with some ideas, I will have some handouts posted to Canvas that shows like some different expressions. Remember, think about your character's personality. Are they happy? Are they silly? Are they an angry character? Are they a sad character? How can we show that? There are many different ways that you can create different eyes, so you can come up with some different expressions. And then mouths. Think about, are you going to show teeth? Is their tongue going to be sticking out? Do you want it to feel more female or do you want it to feel more male? Okay. And then there are many different types of noses and ears. So for example, you could have it be a smaller nose. You could have it be a bigger nose. You could even draw ears on your character. And then think about what kind of extras might they need. Do they need to be wearing glasses? Do they have a mustache? Are you going to put a hair bow in their hair? Are you going to give them any jewelry? So now we're going to take a look at some previous students' designs. One thing I want you to look at, notice the placement of the pupils within the eyes. It can completely change the expression. So for example, having the pupils up high or in the center can give it more of a surprise look. Now, one thing you will want to make sure to include is the whites of the eyes if you're making a human and you have the eyes open. So you might avoid going completely colored when you paint it. You might also choose to have like a line for the eyes. Another thing I want you to look at is the nose. Notice they are all different shapes, from a teeny tiny little dimensional nose to more of a realistic rectangular nose or triangular nose here. Another thing to look at are the mouths. So some of them use just a single line or a thin coil of clay for the mouth. Some you can see the teeth. If you want it to look more feminine, you might even include the curves of the lips. Here, this character was meant to be more surprised. And then also think about, do you want eyebrows? Do you want eyelashes? Do you want to have any facial hair, dimples, freckles, things to consider as you're planning your character. If you're working with an animal, you can still also add your own personality and style to it. So think about what types of ears. Are they more like mouse ears, rabbit ears, dog ears, little teeny tiny ears, polka dotted ears, big elephant ears? As you go through, think about what kind of mouth might your creature have. Is the mouth going to be open? Are teeth important? Especially like if you're going for a rabbit, you might want to show some teeth there. Or like a walrus, you might want to have tusks. So that's something else to consider, what kind of animal mouth. Think about for eyes, like with a snake. We're used to having slits for eyes. For pandas, we might have the darker areas around the eyes as part of their spotting of their fur. Think about what kind of their fur or their texture. Like a lion, you might need to include a mane. A goat, you might need to include some horns. Think about for feet, are there any details? Like an elephant or a turtle, you might choose to draw kind of the fingernails there. Or do you need claws for something? What kind of tail might your creature have? Is it long and bushy and furry, or is it thin and coiled? So something to think about as you're going through, and also think about what kind of feet they might have, what kind of legs might they have, what kind of patterns might they have on their fur. And then again, just have a little fun with it. Maybe you want your character to be wearing a hat or glasses, or have a blanket, or have a collar on, or a top hat. So have some fun with it as you come up with your details for your character. So let's take a look at some previous examples. So you'll notice the eyes are all multi-layer. So usually we start with a small area for the white, and then we add like the dark pupils of the eyes. Again, notice the difference in ear shapes and how they are attached. The head of your creature might be a separate piece that you attach onto the rattle. Look at the different mouths that are there. Some of them are just a line, some of them are part of the beak, some of them have an additional snout that have been added on, or like a block of clay there. So think about what your animal might require to show its features. Okay, so here are some ways that you can make some different details. So one of the things you can do, I would make sure that you know, like if you're doing a person, make sure you know kind of where that neckline is. And I would say from half to 2/3 up would be where I would place the neck. Now what I want you to avoid, and I see this far too often, is a student will take and put a dot, dot, smile, or even this. okay? I want you to go beyond a face like this. Here are some ways that you can do that. Ways to make eyes is just to take little spheres, okay? So we take and roll a little sphere, and then we flatten it, and then roll a little sphere, and flatten it. And you want the spheres to be equal in size so that you have eyes that look the same. And then you can take a little bit more clay here and roll a smaller sphere that then you can press on top. And you might play with size and spacing. Next, to make a nose, we're going to use the modeling technique. So you can see that I'm just forming the shape of the nose using my fingers to pinch the clay. So I'm angling it down so it's like triangle shape this way, and then it's triangle shape when you turn it to the side. Once you have your nose constructed, place it on the face and see, does it look like the right size? So for mine, it looks a little bit too big, so I'm going to trim it down and repinch the nose into the shape. So for the mouth, I could take and make the lips out of like a little slab. When you go to cut your slab, think about what shape you want for the mouth. Is it going to be more of a curved shape, and are you going to show more of the teeth? So I could take my needle tool, my toothpick, and carve teeth into the slab, or do you want it to have more of a feminine shape? So I could again create another slab, and this time I can carve away areas or pinch up the little peaks of the lips and then draw the line that separates the two lips onto the mouth. When I created my Bob Ross character, I decided to create the facial hair first and then use negative space to represent the mouth. So I started by making a small, narrow slab that I used as the beard for my character. I tested it out on the Rattle to see how it looked, and then I used my toothpick to carve away areas. Next, I made a smaller slab for the mustache. Once I was happy with both pieces, then I scored and slipped them onto my project. After adding the nose, I went back in and added a texture to the mustache and the beard. I used my toothpick or needle tool with a lot of lines to create the look of hair within this facial hair area. I wasn't happy with the original eyes that I created, so I tried out some different options. I made little eyebrows out of tiny coils, and then I rolled teeny tiny spheres for dots for the eyes. After trying this, I kept the eyebrows and then chose to carve in the eyes with just a line. This is what I decided to go with for my final face. I wanted the mouth to look like it was smiling, so I took my needle tool and continued to carve away the opening of the mouth within the mustache and beard to make it look more like a smiling mouth. Now don't forget, anytime that you add details for the face, you also need to score and slip those details into place. And remember, you want your details to be three-dimensional and not all carved. So now I want to show you how to create an animal face. So for this example, I'm going to create a rabbit. First, I'm going to make a slab, and then I take my needle tool or my toothpick and draw out the shape that the mouth needs to be. Next, I use my fingers to round the edges. Then I remove more clay where the mouth would be, so you'll be able to see the teeth when I add them. I take a little pinch of clay to create the nose, and I also draw in where the whiskers would go. Once I have another flat piece of clay, I carve in the teeth, and then I score and slip and attach this underneath the mouth that I just created. For the eye details, I choose to draw them in with my needle tool or my toothpick. I start by drawing the white area of the eye, followed by the iris or the colorful area of the eye, and then the circle that would be the pupil or the dark area of the eye, and then I also added a hole for the highlight. I could also repeat this process on small slabs to add some extra dimension to the eyes. When I add the slabs, I would put the nose over the top to help blend it in with the face. And then I can carve in the details into the eye slabs. Next, I took bigger slabs and drew in the shape of the ears. Then I cut out the shape of the ears and used the model technique to make them feel 3D. You could also carve out the center to add an extra level of dimension. Once I had the ears made, I tested them out on my Rattle to see what they would look like. Overall, I was happy with my result. I would maybe make the face a little bit bigger. I can also add some fur texture to the back side of the rabbit with my toothpick or needle tool. I would avoid adding too much texture to the face so that way you don't overpower the other details that you've already created.